Government decisions are always balanced on a scale of several other factors. If government is supposed to or is going to work with entirely what the market conditions are, we will not have free education, we will not have free healthcare, we will not have any subsidies, even electricity and others, governments subsidize. And the reason is because government decisions are ultimately supposed to ensure convenience for the citizens. And that's what the cocoa farmers are asking for. First of all, let's put it on record. The current situation is not entirely as a result of the market, international market price. The current situation has a lot more to do with government's own indecision in the trade. Because there are few misrepresentations that the cocoa board CEO has attempted to do. Let me ask you guys something, all of you here. Assuming cocoa board had sold all the cocoa beans, okay, when the price peaked at 11,000, sometimes 13,000, would cocoa board debt be the reason why prices will go down? Let's assume cocoa board had debt in 2017 when the previous government took office. In fact, if you recall, the cocoa board CEO then had been in court until his own government came and filed for a nolle prosequa and left him. Let me remind all of you that there's something that this government is doing, that we are trying very hard not to push the conversation towards MPP and NDC. It hasn't gotten there yet. Now it is NDC government versus the farmers. It is the NDC government versus the farmers. And that's why we are trying very hard to resist that temptation. Otherwise, this NDC government, who is talking about debt, is largely responsible for the cocoa board debt. Why? Because you remember this government took a syndicated loan of 1.8 billion in 2016. And by the time they were leaving office, by 30th December, the entire $1.8 billion had been squandered by them without supplying the cocoa. In fact, $400 million was spent between December 7th and 30th December. When the previous government, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, inherited this, did you hear them complaining and saying that because of that they will reduce prices? Do you remember that somewhere 2017, 2018, the international price for cocoa dropped? At the time when Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo and the MPP were supposed to use the same excuse to reduce the cocoa price from 475 downwards. They didn't do it. They maintained it. How do you think they managed to do it? Now, the debt that the NDC government left with the $1.8 billion syndicated loan that they squandered in 2016 without supplying the cocoa beans, how was the government able to deal with that one? The government then had to borrow. The MPP government had to borrow to be able to make up for that $1.8 billion syndicated loan that they took and squandered. Let me remind you again, one of the reasons why the NDC CEO, Mr. Opuni, has been in court includes some procurement issues, excess procurement, some fertilizers and chemicals that they bought and they couldn't use. Which books do you think those costs were set on? Is it on the cocoa board books? Let me also remind you that the NDC government keeps talking about cocoa roads and the debt. Who introduced cocoa roads? Was there anything called cocoa roads until the NDC brought cocoa roads in 2015, 2016? They left the cocoa roads debt at cocoa board. The MPP government came to meet that debt. The fact of the matter is that there has never been an occasion in our history that the cocoa board doesn't have debt. And the current debt that they speak of is not just an MPP debt. It is a debt that has rolled over from their time, a debt that they set in sale, which they have come to inherit. Now, think about this. This same debt were there in 2024, isn't it? And yet, in 2024, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo and the MPP managed to give cocoa farmers 3,100 Ghana cedis in the presence and in the midst of the debt. The debt were there. The NDC finance minister now was the ranking member on the finance committee, knew about the debt. The NDC agric minister now was a ranking member on agric, knew about the debt, and yet they said they could, in spite of the debt, give cocoa farmers 6,500 Ghana cedis. Indeed, when they came to office in 2025, if you recollect, they increased cocoa prices twice. The first one by 128 Ghana cedis, and the second one by about 400 and something Ghana cedis, which took cocoa price from 3,100 to 3,600. Were the debt not there? So when you hear the NDC government try to deflect the conversation using debt, throw it into the bin. Because the reality is that the current cocoa farmers' dilemma is not as a result of debt at cocoa board. It is only as a result of poor trading decisions. They gave you cocoa. You were supposed to do forward sales. As at October 2025, the cocoa prices were peaking 13,000, 11,000. You could sell it. In fact, cocoa board can sell cocoa forward by 24 months, 2 years. You can sell your cocoa 2 years ahead of time. You know, cocoa prices usually will hover around $1,600, $2,000. All of a sudden, you wake up, cocoa prices has gone past 10,000, 11,000, going towards 13,000. What do? You can sell and sell leaving your 2027 cocoa.
The cocoa board CEO says they have sold about 80% of them forward sale.
How did he then arrive at the FOB price he arrived in with the 3,600? Do you know how you arrive at the FOB price? You arrive at the FOB price looking at all the forward sales that you have done. If that is true, then cocoa farmers will not have a reduction, because it means that you would have sold at that price and you can afford to pay them.
So you're challenging him on that?
Has he told you the quantity of cocoa beans he had sold? Which ones he had sold at the time? Which ones were left? He should bring.
That's about 70%.
He shouldn't just say 70%. He should show you the figures, and you will see something. Because if it is true that you have sold at that rate, then you should pay the cocoa farmers. I brought you my cocoa beans. You sold 80% according to you at about 7,200. If the price has gone down, why do you reduce my price? You should be able to pay me.
But he says that again, they could not sell all at the forward price because in 2023, the NPP government contracted about almost 100% of the beans, the projected beans at the price, but couldn't deliver. And so when the world market price peaked, we had to now sell at a lower price that we had.
You know, the problem the cocoa board CEO has is that he's either not understanding the issues, or because he has sacked all his trading guys and brought new guys, he's not getting the right information. You said you have sold the 2026, 2025 cocoa forward. 80% has been sold. Is that not what you said? It means that you sold it at a certain rate. Is that not the case? If you sell 80% of a product and you are left with 30%, you shouldn't push your price down to 2,500. At worst, you should keep the price at where it's supposed to be.
Now, even if you do the maths, using the one acre of land, your cost has increased to 12,000. You're still getting about 25,000.
Yes.
At the end of the day, you're still making
compared to 31,000. Why do you think the cocoa farmer should settle for less? A cocoa farmer who used to get 31,000 Ghana cedis for an acre of cocoa farm, which you promise him times 2. So you promise him something around 62,000 Ghana cedis. You come. You are unable to give him the 31,000. You are giving him 25,000. You say you should be happy about it. Do you know his cost? The cocoa farmer has also seen a high rise in cost of living and cost of input. He used to spend 10,250 in maintaining an acre of farm. Today, he's spending 12,650 in maintaining an acre of farm. And you are telling him that he should settle for 25,000. When, after he's done paying for the cost of maintaining the farm, he's paying more electricity, paying more water, paying more fees for his children. Why do you think that I should have my product and lose? That is what the cocoa farmers are asking. That's what they are saying.
The farmers say for nothing at all, keep it at 3,000.
That's what they are saying.
100.
Yes.
What would the People's Forum say?
That's what we agree with. We don't express our view. We agree with the people. If the people had told us that they like the 2,500, we would agree with them. That is what People's Forum is about. We amplify the views of the people. And the people are telling you that, listen, don't touch it. If you cannot give us more, don't give us less. I think government should rather quickly go back to cabinet and come out with a bailout for the farmers. This has never happened. In the 136 years of Ghana dealing in cocoa, it has never happened that cocoa farmers have seen a decrease in cocoa price. Like it's never happened. All governments, all successive governments always had a way of cushioning cocoa farmers. Whatever reforms you want to bring, stay the price at where it is and introduce the reforms. But to bring it out, because you see what the NDC government has done, which all of us haven't realized, is that if we don't take care, cocoa price for the farmers could come to 500 cedis. Because basically what they are saying now is that we would work with the market dynamics. Today, it's about $3,600 on the international market. And you are giving it to them at 2,500 Ghana cedis. So if it comes to 1,100, what should they expect?
The reform proposed by the finance minister suggests that going forward, that is how you're going to do it. The FOB will be determined on spot pricing at the world market. I think that you
Spot pricing is
disagree.
not a smart trading.
You disagree with
Spot
that.
pricing is not a smart trading strategy. Every trader in the world knows. That is why the futures are there. Spot pricing is not a smart strategy. Because you see, with the forward sales, that is where the competition really is at some point. And so people are giving you certain prices. You may lose, you may gain. But usually, with 136 years of experience, it's proven that with cocoa, forward sales gives you more value than a wholesale on spots. So if that is what they want to do, then the cocoa farmers are really in trouble. And do you know the implications? Ghana is going to lose our cocoa farms. I'm telling you. You have been with us and you've seen it with your eyes. You have seen how most of the cocoa farmers are cutting down their trees. And it won't be their fault. The reason is that they just cannot afford to maintain the cocoa farms. Listen, the labor cost in the cocoa farming areas have increased by 100%. It used to be 50, 60 cedis. Now it's 120, 150 cedis. So their cost of producing the cocoa has gone up. So if they realize that it's no longer profitable, what would they do? You remember that already cocoa farms have been competing with rubber. When you go to Western and Western North, that a lot of cocoa farmers are cutting their cocoa trees and planting rubber. And now the biggest competition to cocoa is galamsey in so many fronts, to the extent that they are even losing the labor on the cocoa farms because the farm hands prefer to go and work on galamsey sites than here. And guess what? The government is also making the galamsey business boom because government is buying their gold. The government is actually confirmed that they are buying in excess of about 60% or so of the gold we are exporting from the small scale miners. Minerals Commission's own data shows that small scale mining is made up of about 80 to 90% of illegal miners. So the government is basically supporting the idea that let's push the gold sector against the cocoa sector. And it's clear from all the actions. Look at how they are babysitting their gold board and how they are treating cocoa board. They said they were going to give gold board some money to trade. In there, have they ever come to account how much they've given to gold board to trade? Gold board ran losses of $240 million. You see the way the government is babysitting them and managing them. But look at cocoa board. Now you see the cocoa board situation. What even pains me is that you are treating the farmers with disdain, as if it doesn't matter. Who cares? Listen, let me make this very important point. The cocoa farmer should not be affected by any debt whatsoever from the cocoa board. The reason is that cocoa board's business is simply to come and buy the cocoa, go to the market, go and negotiate, sell. Government will keep about 30% and bring 70% at least to the cocoa farmer. Is that the case? So it is cocoa board's 30% that they play with to run their operations, manage their things, and all of that. So if cocoa board decides that they are 30%, they are going to use it for roads. It shouldn't come and affect the cocoa farmer 70%. That should be your debt. But anytime you lift my cocoa and you go and sell, bring me 70%. Don't forget also that when cocoa board is going to get the syndicated loans, it is not necessarily based on cocoa board's, entirely just on cocoa board's debt. The real value, bargaining chip, is the cocoa. Can you give me 100,000 metric tons of cocoa? Okay, if you can give me, then let's sign a contract. So why are we mixing the two? Why are we mixing the issues? You go to the market. If you had sold this cocoa at the peak price in between October and January, you wouldn't have been in this situation in spite of the debt that cocoa board has. And that must be established clearly. It is cocoa board's incompetence that has led to the farmers' struggles right now. It has nothing to do with cocoa board's debt. Absolutely nothing to do with cocoa board's debt. And the cocoa board CEO knows it. In all his engagement, have you heard him actually push that angle? No, he can't. Because that is not the determining factor. If you owe as an organization because you want to construct rules, because you have to pay your workers, why should the cocoa farmer suffer? You either go to your workers and reduce their salaries, or your small money that you get, go and restructure your debt with the contractors of the route and show them how you'll be able to pay with your 30%. Why should I suffer for it?